Let's start with this, John. Why did it take so long? My God, we're all in these businesses where we do things on a daily basis, a minute-by-minute basis. I don't know how it took arbitrators this long to figure this out, but now that we have the decision, let's talk about it here on the Jon Krawczynski Show. He's Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Time for a cold weather check-in. If your furnace sounds like sneakers tumbling in a dryer, it just might be time for a little TLC. Right now, enjoy $98 off any furnace repair with Aquarius. Give your home the warmth it's been not so subtly asking for. A worry-free furnace is just a click away at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended and keeping you cozy all winter long.
I want to thank everybody who listens. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We also want to welcome one of our newer and bigger sponsors across the TalkNorth.com platform. That is Giggly THC Beverages. Keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC Beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. Zero alcohol, no bad decisions, just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at more than 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at Giggly.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code GIGLY-NORTH, G-I-G-L-I North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better. My wife and I have been drinking them at home, and we really enjoy them. Let's get to the news. The arbitration decision comes down. Awards Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry 90 days to finish the process of purchasing the team. Well, I'm going to leave it to you, John. Why don't you take us through everything you know about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, first to start off with how we started the show of why did it take so long. It was an incredibly nerve-wracking day yesterday for everyone. Really, there were people who thought, hey, Friday was going to be the day that the news came down. It did not come down Friday. And not only did it not come down Friday, it didn't come down till the very end of the day on Monday. And I think, I was in contact with representatives from both sides throughout the day, and just the pins and needles that both sides were on, it was excruciating. It was unbelievable that it came all the way down. And it shows that, even in the big NBA with the glitz and the glamour, and you have Alex Rodriguez, and you have, this $1 billion arbitration, it seems like the panel, not the panel, but like the group that puts and files the paperwork through is unimpressed by all of this. And there is no sense of urgency. So it was an incredible day for it to kind of play out the way that it did, and just talking to both sides, and just everyone saying, what is taking so long? And then it comes down, and it's a 2-1 ruling in favor of Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry. And so I think the biggest immediate takeaway is that Rodriguez and Lowry have heard many doubters throughout this process. There's certainly been mudslinging, from both sides. I think there's been whisper campaigns throughout the NBA about these guys and their ability to kind of follow through on this elaborate and complex plan to take over the ownership of the Timberwolves and Lynx, and they were in the right. The arbitration panel in a 2-1 ruling said that Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez interpreted the contract the correct way, that they were well within their rights to get this 90-day extension, and now they can go through league approval. And, there has been understandable, I think, skepticism from Wolves fans, from people locally about these outsiders. And, they say they want to do all these things. Can they really do it? And I think there was real skepticism when Glenn Taylor kind of, stopped the deal last March, because there was some people that said, I knew that they would never get it done. And, through the entire process, Lowry and Rodriguez were steadfast that they deserved these 90 days, that they had their ducks in a row. And so here they are. And now 3 independent arbitrators, 2 of them ruled in their favor, and they have won. They have done something that very few people have done in their lives when they meet up against Glenn Taylor in some legal kind of battle. They won. They came out victorious. We will see how the league approval process goes, and we'll get into the kind of the machinations of that throughout this show. But at the start of it, just the top thing is that Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez were in the right in the eyes of these arbitrators, and that's just indisputable at this point now.
I still don't understand why, if Lowry's a billionaire and Alex has money and they were committed to buying the team, they did just make the payment on time.
Sure. I think that what we reported during the Athletic during this whole process was that as they got close to the end of for this third tranche, they did have to change financiers from one investment bank to another. I think that did throw them off and was late. But yes, I think that what you heard from Glenn Taylor's side throughout this process was, why not, if you do have the money, just get it in early? Why did you have to wait all the way to the end? And I think that is what kind of drove Glenn Taylor through this process as much as anything else. Was he really believed that these guys either didn't have the money or were borrowing it all. And so he did not believe that they were going to be capable of running the Timberwolves and Lynx. Obviously, Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez object to that forcefully. And I think one of the takeaways that I've had here over, the last 24 hours as I've been talking to people is, it does appear that over these last, let's say, 8-9 months, as this arbitration process has played out, Mark Lowry's financial standing has actually gotten stronger. And they feel like they're in better position with Mark Lowry, with Alex Rodriguez, with Michael Bloomberg, with Eric Schmidt, with all of these, people backing them to kind of, come up, make their final payment and then get approval from the owners, with a very strong financial backing and program. But, I don't know exactly, the machinations behind why it took this long. And that was the criticism from the Glenn Taylor side, is just, why didn't they buy this in June of last year? Why didn't they expedite the process and just get ahead of this all? They said that they were working through their own process and they got to this point and they felt that the contract afforded them the right to do it this way along this timeline. Ultimately, the arbitration panel agreed with them. So
to me, my mind immediately goes to, you have Lowry and Rodriguez taking over. Let's assume for the moment they finish the purchase, and that they get approval from the NBA, which all seems like that's going to happen now. My mind immediately goes to arena. They're going to want a new arena. How is that going to play out? Are they going to be blackmailers? Are they going to be diplomatic? Are they going to put up the money themselves? Do we have any answers about that yet?
Well, what I can say for sure is that I believe that very quickly after they take control, assuming they are approved by the league, you are going to hear a plan for an arena unveiled. I don't think they're going to wait very long. I think they're going to be aggressive in getting out there and addressing it. I know that they've been looking at sites and looking at plans and talking to people about putting this together for a long time now. Alex Rodriguez said on Dan Barrero's show, last year at some point, that they want to privately finance the arena. What does that mean exactly? I'm not sure. Does that mean they're going to pay for it all themselves and develop it and then reap all the financial benefits? Does that mean they are going to seek either local government or state government help in trying to finance the arena? I don't know. What I do know is that I think that even with the Timberwolves certainly playing better and more competitive now than they have been in years, I believe that getting significant public financing for an arena would be an uphill climb for them. So I will be interested to see exactly what the details are behind how they're going to pay for an arena. But what I can say is that we all will hear very quickly after a transfer of power about their plans for an arena and what they want to do with it.
Do you think Target Center is salvageable, or that site is salvageable, or do we look at a new arena in a new place?
So the short answer is I don't know. I don't think Target Center, first I'll say this. I don't think Target Center is salvageable. I think that they've done the renovation thing. They've put the lipstick on the pig. I think they've gone as far as they can with the building as is. One of the architectural quirks of the building that was wrong from the day that they opened it was that there are more upper deck seats than there are lower deck seats. And in the NBA, you make all your money in the lower deck. And so just that in and of itself needs to be changed. And you would think that the building would need to be imploded for that to happen. The tricky thing about doing it on the Target Center site, I would think, is the footprint. It is a very small footprint, especially for these modern NBA arenas. You go around the league, Jim, and go to newer arenas. They are gargantuan. They just cover a lot of ground, and they have all of these amenities, but they also have all of these back of the house accommodations for concerts and for NBA finals and things like that. And so I think unless they like literally changed how that sort of footprint like just lays in the area, and they, wiped out First Avenue there and just essentially combined it with Mayo Clinic Square into a gigantic way that way. I don't know that there's a way of like fitting in a modern new arena right there. Maybe there is, and I don't know about it, but so you have that option. I think International Market Square is an option. There's probably several others. We've heard Farmers Market before. So I'm sure that they have looked at several sites and I don't know if they've made a decision on any of those, but the idea of Target Center kind of surviving through this as sort of a massive overhaul, I think is probably not feasible, and that they'll need a new building somewhere to kind of get them up to modern times with the arena.
Well, if somebody lives downtown Minneapolis, I wish they could salvage it, but I get it. All right, more on the team and more on the ownership situation. First, now I get to be Naz Reid. I get to answer the question of who do you call if you're injured? You call TSR Injury Law, 612 TSR time, 612 TSR time. That's about all you really need to know. They'll take good care of you. They won't charge you unless they win your case, and they win lots of cases. For a higher level of representation, call 612 TSR time. Thanks also to one of our newer sponsors, Royal Credit Union.
Royal Credit Union is your trusted advisor for all your business banking needs. Whether you're starting or growing a business, Royal offers a full suite of business account and lending solutions to meet the needs of your business now and into the future. Royal has business checking and savings accounts, business certificates and money markets, treasury management services, and business loans. Choose Royal Credit Union as your business's financial partner and get started today at rcu.org/royalbusiness. Insured by NCUA. Loans subject to credit approval. Equal credit opportunity.
All right, let's segue to basketball here. We're talking on Tuesday morning. Of course, we're talking after the Timberwolves missed their first 16 shots in a game, which is unfathomable. Anthony Edwards ended up turning it on, having another 40-point night, but they just buried themselves in the first quarter. I just haven't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's fluky nights like that throughout an NBA season. The Cleveland Cavaliers are awesome. They are definitely NBA Finals worthy with how they have played this season and how they're constructed, and just getting DeAndre Hunter only helps that. But you watch the opening, 7 minutes, and they're down 18-1, and they haven't made a field goal until like less than 3 minutes are left in the first quarter. That just doesn't happen. It's just weird. And so they were down big. They tried to come back. They got it to like 16 or 15 points a couple of times, but never really could get anywhere closer than that. And Ant continued his tear, 44 points. I mean, he was, he had a hand in that early slump. He was, I think, 1 for 8 to start. And so, I just chalk that one up to one of those weird NBA nights where no one could buy a bucket outside of Ant. And so, I'm not putting too much stock in it, but, watching them miss, shot after shot after shot. It was historic, really. Like, you just don't see, a team that futile for that long. And congratulations, Wolves. You did it. Like, it was, that was something to behold.
It was. And of course, as you said, a lot of randomness, a lot of weirdness. Even bad shooting teams make a shot here or there in a span like that. I will also give the Cavs credit. I thought they did something like what the Wolves did to the Suns in the playoffs last year, where they extended their defense and just made it uncomfortable for the Wolves to get the shots they wanted. And I didn't think the Wolves worked hard enough to get good shots.
Yeah, I mean, no Mike Conley, that hurts. No DiVincenzo, no Randall. I do think last night was one of those games, where they did miss Julius Randle, because Naz has been so good for so long for them, and really stepped into that starter role and had the offense humming. But there are games where it's just where the offense is so stuck that sometimes you just need a guy to just go bully his way to the basket and get you a bucket and stop the bleeding. And that's what Randall does really well. And they could have used that, but you're right. I think Cleveland just really put the pressure on them. The other thing was, Jim, that defensively, they had a real hard time with Jared Allen and Mobley in the front court and how big they are. And it was not a good Rudy game. Rudy's been playing a lot better lately. He did not have a good game. Could not control the boards, the offensive glass early in the game, and it just dug them too deep of a hole. And then they could not get enough stops to even, get it within single digits and make it interesting. Cleveland just really put the pressure on, really forced the Wolves into taking shots they probably didn't want to or shouldn't have taken. And the avalanche came down the mountain from there.
Yep. We don't need to talk much more about that game. It was another 40-point game for Anthony Edwards. And it's so funny that he had that night earlier in the season where he was like, I don't know what to do with these double teams. I don't know what's going on. He just completely lost. And really, since then, he's just been spectacular.
Yeah, he's been terrific. We talked earlier in the season about the trouble that he was having sort of finding his shots in the offense and getting to the rim and just kind of acclimating to life without Karl Anthony Towns. And it was difficult for him in those first couple of months. I think he did have to search and have to adjust to the way defenses were attacking him. Well, ever since the start of the new year, I mean, he's got that down. 30 points a game in January, 4 straight 40-point games now here in February. And I think the biggest encouragement when you watch his game is, yes, he's still shooting the three great. He was 8 for 15 last night, doing really well from behind the arc. That's awesome. But he's getting to the free throw line. Another 13 attempts last night. He's had, 18 attempt nights. He's had, a lot of double digit free throw nights, which tells you that he is not being walled off from the rim and the paint the way that he was earlier in the season. He is finding ways to get to the basket and create offense. And I think that is important because he's got to find repeatable stuff. Whereas even on nights where he's not hitting his three, which are very rare, he still has a way to go generate offense for you. And so I do think that it's been interesting that this kind of boom in his scoring and his free throw shooting has come with Naz Reid in the starting lineup. I do think there's a little bit different and more spacing with Reid out there versus Randall. But really he was starting to play this way even when Julius was healthy as well. So I just think you're seeing a player understand what defenses are throwing at him and how to counteract that a little much better now than he was at the start of the season.
And do you think that is that him figuring things out? Is that Finch? Is there an assistant who really has helped him through all that?
I mean, I think so. Chris Hines is his kind of player development coach that he, spends a lot of time with and is close with. Certainly Chris Finch has had a lot of, critiques of his play in film sessions with the team and individually. And I do think that Finch is also finding a better feel for the rotations and for what players work well together. And that's been a big help as well. So I think, it's a combination of all of these things that has led to this. And, I think mostly though, or most importantly, I think it is Anthony Edwards. Like he just had to wrap his mind around the game in a way that was more conducive to him being successful. I think it was a little bit too easy to take him out of games earlier in the season, to kind of flummox him. And now he's just being so much more aggressive with his mindset that, he's so physically talented that if he does that, it's really hard to stop him. And I think, it takes a lot out of you. He's got a little bit of a hip, kind of injury right now. And this is a very physical kind of stretch for him, but he understands what this team needs from him, and he understands how to deliver it in a much better way than he did earlier in the season. That's been very, very good for him and for the Timberwolves.
Let's talk about his arguing and the rest of the roster, including some very interesting bench developments. First, though, let's hear more about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. I've been telling you about it for months now. Just a life-changing experience for me to go to True Vision and have LASIK surgery this summer. Everything is easier for me after having LASIK surgery. I don't have the hassles of contacts and eyeglasses. I don't have to worry about going in for annual appointments to get the eyes checked, and also to make sure that I have the latest and greatest style of glasses, and I'm not looking like some washed up 46-year-old like I am, trying to stay ahead of the trends. I don't have that anymore. I'm just going around free and clear without anything on my face. And that's all thanks to the good folks at True Vision. When you go into True Vision, you will immediately notice how welcoming, how warm, how friendly, and how knowledgeable the staff is there. They get you in, they get you checked out, they find the right vision correction options for you. And then Dr. Chu is just world class in how he helps you through the procedure, how he makes sure that he gets you taken care of, and like he did with me. And I've had zero issues with my vision since I had the surgery in July. And I just keep kicking myself and wishing I would have done it 10 years ago. So go to truevision.com and set up your consultation. Tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you, and get on with your life. Make it easier on yourself, and just get to the point where you can kick your own self in the butt and say, why didn't I do this a long time ago?
Let's also hear from Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
SGLambchops.com is the place to go for the best casual wear, hoodies, sweatpants, t-shirts, shorts, hats that you can find out there. That is a local company. Jordan and Craig are at courtside at Lynx games and Wolves games all of the time. They are embedded in this community like we are embedded in this community. And if you go to sglambchops.com and use the promo code JONK20, you get 20% off your purchase there. I love their shorts. They're the best shorts that I've ever worn. But anything that you put on from Lamb Chops clothing is so high quality. You can feel the difference when you put their stuff on versus other stuff that you might buy elsewhere. It is affordable. It is stylish. You can wear it out on the town in the North Loop if you want to. You can wear it out to a Timberwolves game and feel good about it. You can also just lounge around while you're at home watching games, staying warm in this cold weather. So go to sglambchops.com, use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that they have with Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing.
We'll do a Twitter question brought to you by Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line to end the show. Right now, let's get to interesting developments. Jalen Clark, it felt like when they first started bringing off the bench, it was like, okay, bring him in, let him play a little defense, get him back off the court. He is showing some real offensive chops right now.
He is. I think that's been the biggest surprise. I think that there was always a hope and an anticipation that he could be a difference maker defensively. He was the National Defensive Player of the Year in college before he tore his Achilles. And so there are real instincts there. He has size and strength to be a good perimeter defender. And I think he's even been better than anyone anticipated, at least early on from a defensive standpoint. I think what is allowing Chris Finch to play him for big minutes a lot of nights, he played 32 minutes the other night against Portland, I believe. So what helps Finch stay with him is that it's a two-way player. He can do things on the defensive end, but he's also making enough of the right decisions offensively, hitting shots that are open when they come to him, but also cutting to the basket, creating offense that way with his movement and making smart passes as well. He just looks like a player who's largely in control of what he's doing out there offensively, which is impressive for a guy who missed an entire year, who has zero experience at the NBA level yet, besides what he's done so far this season. And he just looks comfortable out there. And I know that he has earned more confidence from Chris Finch because of the reliable defense and because of the decision making than Rob Dillingham has, than Josh Minot has, than any of their young players have, just because the game does not seem too big for him. It doesn't seem too fast for him. He's not making silly mental errors on either end of the court, and that is the fastest way into Chris Finch's rotation. And he's earning these minutes right now.
And he seems to be a really smart player, and he seems to be very humble and composed. He's a really fun guy to talk to.
Yeah, he's got a great personality. You know, there's a lot of rookies, especially like you're late in the second round. You're kind of hanging on a two-way contract. A lot of those guys are kind of seen and not heard guys. They keep a very low profile. They're quiet in the locker room and practice. You know, in the playing time that they do get. But with Jalen Clark, he is a loud personality. He is not bashful about joking around in the locker room, about getting into conversations with veterans, about asking questions. He's very curious. He's really smart. You can tell that he's had, you know, a good, solid upbringing. And I just think that, you know, he has a good way about him that people gravitate to. And I know that locker room is rooting for him, just given all that he has been through physically to get back to where he is now, and to see him giving them the boost that they kind of need on that bench, with DiVincenzo out, with Randall out, with Conley out, with, you know, the injuries that they are suffering right now. It's just been a huge lift for what this Timberwolves team needs right now, and kind of, you know, the dog days of the season, and with the health issues that have crept into their top 8 or 9 rotation.
You brought up an interesting point. They have a lot of people injured right now. Do you have any injury updates, any clue as to when Randall and DiVincenzo in particular will be back?
Yeah, it seems like, I think Randall's going to be reevaluated when they get back from the All-Star break. I don't think, my read on it is that's not a long-term injury, that he needed he needs a few weeks to let it heal and get it back right. But I think that there's real optimism that, you know, after the All-Star break, or not long after, he will be able to get back out on the court. DiVincenzo might be a little bit longer, could be the end of February, early March before he is back, but he is also trending in the right direction. We've seen him at all of the games, and he's walking around without any limp. Obviously, there's a big difference between walking around and then being out on the court and cutting and running and jumping and doing all the things that he's going to need to do with that turf toe. But I think that is also trending in the right direction. And Mike Conley's dislocated finger, I don't know if he will be able to play in these final 2 games before the All-Star break. I think he's trying to get better and get ready for that. It was wrapped heavily at the Cleveland game on Monday night, and so we'll see if he can play or not. But that is also, I think, a shorter term injury that if he cannot play in these 2 games, I would expect that coming out of the break, he should be in pretty good shape to get back out on the court too.
Jim Pete said something that I've been thinking myself for a while last night on the broadcast. He said, hey, you know, Leonard Miller is a really interesting player, very athletic, and he's been dominant when he's going down the G League. And he's not getting as many minutes now as Jalen Clark and even Terrence Shannon Jr. and Luka Garza. What's his status, and what's his future look like?
Yeah, I think he's shown a lot of promise for sure. He has a ton of physical tools. He's a gigantic dude. He can handle the ball a little bit. He can, you know, he rebounds like a madman. It's certainly in Iowa, and I think he could probably do that up here. I think that what Chris Finch is looking for is a little bit more kind of decision-making chops, like making sure he's making the right play, not missing assignments on defense, not, you know, making sure he's in the right spots on offense. And so there's a bit of, you know, kind of game plan, discipline that probably factors into his lack of minutes so far. But Jim, I do think that it might be worth looking his way a little bit more until Julius Randle gets back, because Luka Garza is in some bad kind of funk. Like, you look at him out there and he does not look confident. He is shooting the ball terribly. He's, getting cooked on defense, and I don't know what's going on with Luka right now. It just looks like he is in his own head to quite a great degree. And he's been the big that they go to off of the bench when they need someone. And I just do wonder, like, how much longer Chris Finch will stay with that, with Julius Randle out. And if they do give Leonard Miller a little bit more burn, he's not as thick as Luka Garza is and strong, but man, it's, you can't play much worse than Luka Garza has the last several games. And so, I'm watching that closely here over these last 2 home games before the break, just to see if anything changes up there and maybe goes Leonard Miller's way.
And where do you think Terrence Shannon Jr. is right now in terms of playing time and status?
Yeah, he seems kind of like a guy who goes in and can wreck a game for, 5 or 6 minutes. Certainly limited with his shot offensively, but what you love about him is how aggressive he is going to the basket. He plays physical. He's older than Ant. He's a big grown man out there. And I think that he, has a long way to go in terms of, kind of similarly to Miller in terms of just making sure that he's got the aptitude and for offense and defense and just understanding where he has to be. But there's no denying that, he is just a guy who can get out and run, who really picks up like the physicality and the energy when he is out there in spot minutes. And there are going to be nights where he comes out and he hits a 3-pointer in the corner and he throws down a big dunk, and he's a real positive influence on the team in 5 to 10 minutes. And then there are going to be other nights where, the shot is a little shaky and he just kind of it looks a little bit lost out there. That's what rookies do. And so, I think though it's important with Shannon to stay with him as much as they can and keep giving him little tastes of the action. And if he plays really well, if he's doing good things out there, just stay with him. Just go with it and let him get out there and run a little bit more. And so I think that he's done well with the minutes that he has, but I don't know how many more minutes are coming for him, in the next few games. One more topic, and then our Twitter question brought to you by Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line. Once again, thanks to everyone who listens to TalkNorth.com and the Jon Krawczynski Show. So how are you feeling about where they are in the Western Conference right now? I think they're tied for 6th. What do you think the prospects are for moving up and catching some of these teams? Yeah, I mean, I think that largely, let's, set aside the Cleveland debacle. The arrow's been trending up for them for more than a month now. They are playing better, much better offense lately. Their defense has been good enough to be top 10. And they are generally just playing a cleaner, better style of basketball. And so, I think that, I think in the last 19 or 20 games, their last 20 games, they're 13-7. 5 of those 7 losses have been by 2 points or less. They very rarely get blown out like they did on Monday. So they're in all of these games. They are playing better. If they get healthy here soon, I think they're going to be right in the mix, and they should be shooting for a top 6 seed in the playoffs. I don't think that they don't want to be in the play-in tournament, but they are better than that. And so that's kind of the expectations that I'm setting. It would be great if they could climb up to 4 or 5. I don't know if that's going to happen. But they are in a spot where just about every night you're saying this team is getting better than it was. And so I think they're going to be right in the mix all the way down the stretch. It's going to be a white knuckle race. There's going to be time stretches where they lose 3 out of 4 and they drop down to 8th, and then they're going to win 5 in a row and be in 5th. And the swings are going to be dramatic. And so I think players and coaches have to brace for that down the stretch, is that the pendulum is going to swing wildly, and it's going to be stressful. It's going to be maddening. It's going to be exhilarating, and all of those things. Just buckle up, because everyone in the West has faults besides OKC, it seems like. And everyone is really jam-packed. So there's just going to be a lot of movement, over these last 30 games or so. It's going to be a blast. Let's get to the Twitter question. Yeah, a couple. We'll get to a couple things with ownership to finish up. First of all, our Twitter question from Wolves Hoops Critic, play-in champs on Twitter. Do you think the new ownership would consider a rebrand, bring back the old jerseys and logo? I don't know about the old jerseys and logo in terms of that, but I do think that should Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry come into power here, they're definitely going to have a rebrand. I think they understand that it needs a little bit of a refresh, that this team is now much more competitive. They're on a higher plane, and I think that there's going to be a push for a new look. Exactly when that happens, I don't know if it'll be next season or more, but it's certainly on the radar of the ownership group. So we will send you a DM, Wolves Hoops Critic, and a Lamb Chops will reach out to you for a free giveaway. So thanks for listening and participating. But yeah, I think finally, just kind of a couple of things to close on the ownership, Jim. It's just, I think that perhaps the most important thing for the developments of Monday was that it does provide clarity for this group going forward. The front office, the coaches, the players to some extent, but also more so the people on the business side of the operation have really been stuck in the middle of this really messy divorce. And it has been incredibly uncomfortable for everyone to navigate and to handle, kind of over especially the last 6 to 8 months here. And so at least now that this ruling has come down, and yes, they still have to go through the approval process and all of that. But, I think that people can at least understand now that there is one vision going forward. And I think that this organization needed that. It was one that was stuck in limbo, having to kind of account for the wants and needs of one ownership group and the wants and needs of another, I think was exhausting for a lot of people involved here. And so this is good news in just that respect. Now, what it shifts to potentially, again, as speaking in assumptions of that Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez will get approved by the NBA, is that what will happen now is all of the sort of theoretical planning, the vision setting, all of that stuff from the new guys now needs to be put into practice. And it is one thing to kind of go through it and to plan for it and to prepare yourself for it and kind of envision rolling out what you would do as an ownership group. And it's another thing to actually do it. And so I think these guys are going to come in and be ultra aggressive in kind of the way that they approach things and just kind of seeing how they manage being sitting in the big chair now, is going to be interesting. They have said largely all the right things. Privately financed arena, the excitement and the investment in the franchise, and talking about being luxury tax spenders and hiring the best people. They've said all of the right things, and now it's their opportunity to go out and do it. And to this point, everything that they have said that they were going to do has been done. And so they have started to build up some equity there. And so now, now is the time where we're going to see, okay, can they put those words into action? And that will be a big, big test for these guys. So we will, we'll see what that transition brings and how it goes. And, but for a group that has heard over the last couple of years, they don't have the money. They're not going to get this done. They are on the brink of getting this done. And I think that that's significant. This is a big, big moment in Timberwolves history. And to see it kind of come to fruition like this, there were a lot of people who never thought it would get this far. And here are Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez right on the doorstep of being owners. So finally, as my long-winded ending here goes, I do think about Glenn Taylor a lot in this. I've known him for a very long time. I know that this was a very bitter kind of feud at the end of his tenure here. I've said it before, though. The Timberwolves and NBA basketball would not be here right now in Minneapolis were it not for him. He saved this team and this franchise from moving to New Orleans. And if they had moved to New Orleans 5 years after becoming an expansion franchise, I don't think the NBA would have ever come back here. So I think he deserves great amount of credit for that. And how he handles the exit, assuming this is the exit, will be interesting to see. Is he going to appeal the ruling to a federal court? I don't think so, but you never know, I guess. And this was a knockdown, drag out fight down the stretch here. And he ended up on the losing end of it. And that's not a place that he's been very often. So we will see how he handles it. We have not heard from him other than the statement yesterday. But I think everybody's waiting to see just how this goes over the next couple of weeks and month as the process rolls forward.
Good stuff, Jon. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who listens. We'll be back next week for more basketball news and more ownership news. Thanks for listening to TalkNorth.com. We'll talk to you soon.